We live in a world designed to destroy our self-control. Every app on your phone, every advertisement you see, every processed food on the grocery store shelf is engineered by teams of brilliant people to hijack your ancient biological drives. They are designed to make you want more, consume more, and never ever feel satisfied. We are told that freedom is the ability to satisfy any desire we have instantly. But what if that isn't freedom? What if it's the most sophisticated prison ever designed? A prison where the bars are made of our own unchecked appetites. We suffer from a crisis of more information, more food, more entertainment, more stuff. And yet we feel more anxious and dissatisfied than ever before. The ancient Stoics confronted this same problem, not with technology but with human nature itself. They knew that the desire for pleasure and the avoidance of pain were powerful forces, but they believed that a life well lived required mastering these forces, not being a slave to them. They called this master virtue Sophrosyne, which we translate as temperance or self-control. In this masterclass, we will explore the Stoic art of temperance. This is not a guide to a life of joyless denial. It is a guide to finding a deeper, more durable form of satisfaction than fleeting pleasure can ever provide. It is the framework for reclaiming your mind from the culture of excess. This is the Stoic guide to mastering yourself. Before we go any further, we must destroy a common myth. When we hear self-control or temperance, we often picture a life of grim, joyless self-denial. We imagine someone who says no to every pleasure, who lives a bland and colorless existence. This is not Stoicism. This is a caricature. The Stoics were not anti-pleasure. They simply believed that pleasure was not the goal of life. The goal of life was to live with virtue. They categorized pleasure, like wealth and health, as a preferred indifferent. It's nice to have, it can be enjoyed, but it has no bearing on your moral character, and it is a terrible master to serve. The key difference is in the source of your happiness. A person who lacks temperance, the hedonist, places their happiness in the object of their desire. I will be happy if I eat this cake. I will be happy if I buy this new gadget. Their happiness is therefore fragile and dependent on external things. When the cake is gone, so is the happiness. The Stoic, on the other hand, places their happiness in their judgment. They can enjoy the cake, but they do so with a rational awareness. They can appreciate its taste without becoming dependent on it for their tranquility. Their happiness comes from the knowledge that they are in control of their choices, not from the pleasure itself. As Epictetus taught, the problem is not the cake, the problem is our uncontrolled craving for the cake. So, Stoic temperance is not about saying no to everything that feels good. It is the rational ability to moderate your desires, to choose what is truly good for you in the long run over what merely feels good in the moment. It is the wisdom to know the difference between enjoying a pleasure and being enslaved by it. It is not self-denial. It is the highest form of self-respect. The first arena where temperance must be practiced is the most immediate and primal, the arena of the body. This is a battle against our oldest, most hardwired appetites for food, drink, comfort, and physical pleasure. These appetites are not inherently evil, they are natural survival mechanisms. The problem is that our ancient brain, designed for a world of scarcity, now lives in a world of absolute abundance, and it doesn't know when to stop. The Stoics understood that the body, left to its own devices, is an unintelligent master. It always wants more sugar, more fat, more comfort, more ease. It is the job of our rational mind, our hegemonikon, to act as a wise governor over these impulses. Marcus Aurelius constantly monitored himself. We know from his writings that his diet was often simple: a little bread, some olives, maybe some cheese. This was the emperor of the known world, a man who could have had a 10-course feast for every meal, but he chose moderation. Why? He knew that luxury and overindulgence are a trap. They soften the body, but more importantly, they soften the will. When you become accustomed to constant pleasure, you become terrified of its absence. You lose your resilience. A person who can only sleep on the finest mattress will be miserable on a simple one. A person who must have rich food for every meal will be angered by a simple one. By practicing moderation, you are not just controlling your diet, you are training your mind to be independent of external comforts. This doesn't mean you can never enjoy a fine meal or a comfortable bed. It means you enjoy them without becoming dependent on them. You enjoy them as preferred indifference, not as necessities for your happiness. You prove to yourself through deliberate practice that you can be perfectly content with what is simple and sufficient. This mastery over your physical appetites is the first step toward true freedom. While mastering our physical appetites is a challenge, the Stoics knew there was a far more dangerous and insatiable beast to tame. This is the second arena of temperance, the arena of the mind, and its battle against abstract desires. These are the cravings for things that exist only in the social world: fame, status, power, reputation, the approval of others. These desires are more treacherous than physical ones for one simple reason: they have no natural limit. You can only eat so much food before you are full. But how much fame is enough? How much power is enough? How many likes are enough? The answer is always a little bit more. This is the hedonic treadmill we discussed in a previous short, and it is the engine of modern misery. Epictetus, who had zero status as a slave, understood this better than anyone. He taught that our obsession with these externals is a form of self-enslavement. When you crave the approval of others, you make them your master. Your emotional state is no longer your own, it becomes a puppet whose strings are pulled by the whims of the crowd. He asked, if a person gave your body to any stranger he met on his way, you would be angry. And do you feel no shame in handing over your own mind to be confused and mystified by anyone who happens to verbally attack you? The Stoic practice of temperance here is to ruthlessly shrink your desires, to perform a mental accounting of all the things you want and ask, is this truly necessary for me to live a good, virtuous life? You will find that almost none of them are. This is not about giving up ambition. A Stoic can still strive to do great work, but they do it for the sake of the work itself, for the expression of their own virtue, not for the fragile rewards of fame or applause that may or may not follow. By mastering these abstract desires, you reclaim your psychological independence. You stop looking for validation outside because you are cultivating it within. Knowing the arenas of self-control is one thing, winning the battles is another. Like any virtue, temperance is a skill, a muscle that must be trained daily. The Stoics were not interested in theory without practice. They had a training regimen, a mental gymnasium to build their willpower. Here are 3 of their most powerful exercises. First, practice the pause. This is your first line of defense against any impulse. When a craving hits for food, for distraction, for an angry comment, your only job is to create a small space between the impulse and your action. Don't tell yourself, I can never have this. That often creates more resistance. Instead, tell yourself, I can have this. In that 5-minute pause, your rational mind has a chance to catch up. You can ask yourself, is this truly what I want? Is this aligned with the person I want to be? More often than not, the power of the impulse will fade when exposed to the light of reason. The pause is the gap where your freedom lies. Second, the vaccine of voluntary hardship. We have discussed this powerful practice before, and it is the primary weightlifting for your temperance muscle. By deliberately and temporarily giving up comforts, you train your mind to withstand desire. When you fast for a day, you are not just skipping meals, you are teaching your hunger who is in charge. When you take a cold shower, you are not just getting clean, you are teaching your desire for comfort that it does not rule you. Seneca recommended this constantly. He would eat simple food and wear a coarse cloak, not because he had to, but to remind himself that he could. He was practicing. He was building resilience, so that if fortune ever took his comforts away, it would not be a catastrophe, but merely an inconvenience he was already well trained for. Third, the self-audit via journaling. You cannot manage what you do not measure. At the end of the day, take 5 minutes to review your actions through the lens of temperance. Be an honest accountant of your own behavior. How many times did you mindlessly check your phone? How often did you eat out of boredom instead of hunger? How many times did you complain about something trivial? You don't do this to shame yourself. You do this to create awareness. The simple act of observing your unconscious habits is often enough to begin changing them. It brings your patterns out of the darkness and into the light of your own rational mind. So we arrive at the final beautiful truth of Stoic temperance. It is not about a life of restriction, poverty, or joyless denial. It is the exact opposite. It is about liberation. It is about freedom. The person who constantly needs more food, more praise, more stuff, more stimulation, is not free. They are a slave to their own appetites, a slave to the opinions of others, a slave to the next dopamine hit. Their inner peace is constantly held hostage by things they do not fully control. The practice of temperance, of mastering your physical appetites, of taming your desire for externals, of training your will through daily practice is the act of methodically breaking every single one of those chains. The goal is to arrive at the most peaceful and powerful state a human being can achieve, the serene understanding of what is enough. When you are content with what you have, when you are not constantly pulled by the craving for more, you become truly, unshakably rich. When you are the master of your own desires, you become truly, unshakably free. This is the freedom the Stoics sought. Not the freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom from wanting the wrong things. The freedom to direct your life with reason, not impulse. The freedom that comes from building a citadel within, whose gates are guarded by a calm and rational mind. That is the freedom of enough.